Hi, it's Mrs. Green, and this lesson is on comparing decimals. So we're starting a new unit on decimals and percents. The first half of the unit will be decimals, reminding ourselves how to deal with decimal numbers and how to add and subtract, multiply and divide decimals. So we review the operations, the four operations in math. Add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Oops, I did those backwards. Multiply and divide. Divide and multiply. And we've done it with integers now and fractions, and so we're moving on to decimals. And then at the end of the chapter, at the end of the unit, we'll practice percents. So we'll talk about how decimals and fractions can be expressed as percents, and we'll do a bunch of problems. There are a lot of application problems having to do with percents, and also with decimals, but toward the end of the unit, we'll be doing a lot more word problems. So one of the ways of talking about decimals is to compare. So if you have two decimals, how would you compare them? And one of the best ways to do that is to use the place value of the two numbers. And so place value is there's a graphic here which shows all the different places and their names. And so you have a decimal in the middle, kind of in the middle here. And so to the left of the decimal are the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on, all the way up. That's where the number gets bigger. And then to the right of the decimal, which is what we'll be using, are the fractional parts or the decimal parts, the smaller numbers, the numbers less than 1, and their place values. So you have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, and they correspond. You can see that tenths and tens, and then the next one is hundredths and hundredths, hundreds and hundredths. So you've got a little different spelling. You've got the TH when you're on the right-hand side of the decimal place. Okay, so let's talk about how you would compare using those place values. So here's an example, example 1. So your key information, there's not a ton of key information here. What I want you to write in your key information. So here's the key information. I've typed it in. It's really just a statement. You can use place value, which we're going to show an example of in a minute, or a number line, which will be the second example, to compare decimals. And when you're comparing decimals, you're basically seeing which one is larger, which one is smaller, putting them in order. So you'll be asked to do one of those things. All right, so let's go to the example number 1. I have a word problem here. You don't have to write the whole word problem. So you could write example 1, 3.25 versus 3.5, but here's a real-life example they wrote in the book. An adult calliope hummingbird has a length of 3.25 inches. The little double quote marks stands for inches. The single stands for feet, if you can't remember that. And an adult Costa hummingbird has a length of 3.5 inches. Which bird is longer? So one of the methods we can use, and you can do this mentally, but I want you to realize what you're doing when you're doing mental math. So that's why I have you write it down on paper. So we're going to compare place value. So we've got tens, and over here we also have the same number for tens, so we don't have any difference there. We have to keep moving to the right. Then we have, sorry, that was the ones place, not tens. My mistake. So the 3 is in the ones place. Sorry about that. I'm not going to re-record just because it's so much work. So I'll have to just correct my error. So the ones place has the same number. We don't, so they're equal so far. Then we're going to move to the tenths, and tenths, and compare. And now we have a comparison. We can stop here because we have one number that's larger than the other. The 5 is larger than the 2. So since 2 is less than 5, we can conclude that 3.25 is less than 3.5. So back to answering our question, the bird that has the greater number is the longer hummingbird. So the Costa hummingbird is longer. Okay, the second method for solving example 1 is to draw a number line. So you have the comparison of place values, which we did at the first method, and then we also could draw a number line and graph the points. So if you place, I've got a number line here that's marked with markings between the number 3 and the number 4, which is where these decimals are going to lie. And then I marked 3.5 in the middle, but neither one of, so that's one of the hummingbird lengths, 3.5. And then I had to find 3.25, and so if I go between, here are my orange numbers, I've got 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4. Halfway in between 3.2 and 3.3 is going to be 3.25. I also know that 3.25 is a quarter of the way, because 2.25 is 1/4. Quarter of the way between 3 and 4, so I could have marked it that way, just like I did with the 3.75. A couple different ways to mark these. But once you graph them, you can see that the number that is to the left is going to be the smaller number. So 3.25 is to the left of 3.5 on the number line. So that means it's the smaller number. So 3.25 is smaller than 3.5, less than 3.5. So the longer bird is the Costa hummingbird again. All right, one more example. You can use, if you have positive and negative numbers, you can use a number line to compare them. So let's say they ask you to order the numbers. So these are my numbers that I've listed: 0.7, negative 1.3, negative 0.4, 1.5, and negative 0.9. So I've got a number line, and if I graph the number line just like I did on the last example, and I check to see which number is the furthest to the left, that will be the smallest number. It might have a bigger absolute value, and it will have a bigger absolute value if we're in the negative side of the number line, but it is a smaller number. So let's see what that looks like. So positive 0.7, so I'm going to graph 0.7 on the number line, which would be the 7th mark between 0 and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 0.7. Negative 1.3 is going to be past 1. 1, 2, 3. Negative 1.3 right there. Negative 0.4 is going to be going negative on the number line. 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 0.4 is right here. That's a 4. My 4s are a little hard to draw. Need a smaller stylus. 1.5 is going to be to the right of 0, and it's past 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And negative 0.9 is 1, 2, 3. It's just 1 right before negative 1. Negative 0.9. All right, so I need to just, they're in order now. So I've got negative 1.3, negative 0.9, negative 0.4, 0.7, and 1.5. So that's probably the easiest way to order them on a number line. Now notice that you might think that 1.3 is bigger than some of these smaller numbers that whose absolute value is smaller than 1.3. But because it's a negative, it's going to be further to the left on a number line, and that means it's a smaller number. It's a smaller decimal. All right, so now we have 3 practice problems. I want you to compare 7.1 and 6.9, and so you need to have a less than symbol or a greater than symbol, or an equal to symbol, but we can see they're not equal. So greater than or less than of the first 2, and then you want to order the decimals from least to greatest. Once you're done with that, you're going to do your wrap up. That's it.